All right, Mr. Dave Whichard, welcome to the Rich Equation podcast, brother. Appreciate you being here.
Hey, man, I appreciate you being on. It's always an honor to speak and help people and doing anything I can to make a difference in people's lives. So thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I've been watching you, following you. I'm really honored that you were willing and able to come on the podcast. I think it's always fun to have conversations with real leaders who break patterns, and so I just want to get right into it with you because um, it's very clear that you, and right before we started recording, this came up also. It's like it's very clear that you are mission driven and values driven, and I want to just get right into that. Like, you always come from a place of like, what can I do to serve? How do I serve? Where's that coming from? Let's go straight deep to like what in your childhood, what is the core part of you that is leading with that? I don't feel like that's coming. A lot of people virtue signal with that. That doesn't seem like you. You're speaking from this really deep place where that's driving you. So let's get hot and heavy real fast. Where's that coming from?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for asking that question. I mean, when we go back and we look at the beginning and figure out where it did come from, my mom, I talk about my mom a lot. My mom is probably sitting in a prayer room here around 2 o'clock. I like to say it probably wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for that praying mom. If you ever saw the movie War Room.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so when I was growing up, I was always an athlete. And, when I was a little kid, 5 years old, she's running me to everything from soccer to baseball to bowling, whatever. And then stopping to, cook dinner and do this and just serving my dad and I had a little sister eventually. And then, but she always was this person that just gave something she didn't have, like whether it be at Walmart and paying for something for somebody or giving to the church, maybe money we didn't have at that time. So I just saw this giving person who loved God and loved people. And so I think that part of me is in me. My wife always like say, Dave meets you and he loves you. He just loves people. I've never met anything like that. And that's just how I'm always been until you hurt me
Yeah.
and lose that trust. That's how I'm built. You know, I just like to help people. So I watch her do it. And I think that's where it came from. And so it's just like anything I can do to drop something to help somebody else less fortunate or maybe is falling down or whatever the case may be. That's where that comes from. Just a servant heart is what I have, I guess. And that was, I've got that from my mom for sure. So
I love that you called out your mom on that and didn't take all the credit, because I feel like that's the same for me. Not to repeat what you just said, but one of the things I also notice about my mom when it comes to this service heart is that in order to have that type of service heart, she is able to forgive really easily. Is
amen.
that true for you?
Yeah, it is. I mean, there are certain cases.
I mean, we can't control everybody. We can't control how they behave and their intentions, and maybe even, sometimes they don't know what they're doing. But I just noticed that like the way she's able to move swiftly through life and build relationships and, do what you're talking about is like she's just able to forgive much easier than I think most people can.
Yeah, that's true. I think I am a more forgiving person than most. That's a fact.
Yeah,
If you deeply hurt me, that can be something for me to overcome. And with my
sure.
wife now, it's having that strength and having that best friend to lean on, and having the proper circle around you is super important. I think the bigger you get, right? You got to kind of watch those relationships, because I think having some people to lean on during those tough times, whether it's 3, 4, 5, whatever your circle is, I think the smaller, the stronger that circle. You and I can be like, I look for the more success, who can take me to the next level, who I can lean on. So my circles change. Doesn't mean the people on the outside of that circle aren't meaningful in my life or I've forgotten them. It's just we have to change those circles. I think that's helps you through a lot of things too. The other thing I've learned, my wife said this to me the other day, Dave, you can't change people. They have to be willing to change or willing to listen.
Hold on. I need to write that down. I need to write that down because I need a sticky note for that one.
Yes. Well, I think you and guys like us, it's
We
like
try.
we have a set attitude. It's like, well, we want them to be like us, but maybe they're not ready for that yet.
Yeah, right.
I have 4 son-in-laws, for example, being transparent, and I want to throw them to the roof sometimes. I love them, but like they don't think like I do for the most part. And so that's where that comes from. Dave, you can only pour into them if they want you to pour into them. You can only give them if you want to. They're not ready to change. They have to be willing to change. So I think it's easy for us to want to change people. The truth is they have to be ready to change and listen. Otherwise, a lot of the things we say are in vain. unless they're asking for help. So anyway.
Yeah, spot on. Let's talk about building teams. I think you have a lot of great experience from that, but even more so, like, I just like the language you use. I like the intensity that you bring to the idea of building an army and building team and creating momentum and all those kinds of things, regardless of whatever business you're running. I think you speak from that place of hustle and grind and pushing. And I think you're spot on. A lot of people, that's not for everybody. I'm learning that now, of being less apologetic about that and being less inclusive about that. Like, if it's not meant for you, that's okay. And that's a new lesson for me. So, what has proved to work for you in that strategy or that regard? Is that just like what you've committed to? Like, that's just how I'm going to behave and operate. And if it works for you, great. If not, whatever. But I'm sure you're doing that also because you're seeing results from that. So I know that's an open-ended question, but let's just go wherever this
Yeah,
goes.
I think in the mentors I've had in my life, I've always been like, if you and I worked together and you gave me a path that worked, then I'm going to go in all in, do exactly what you tell me to do because it works, and then 10x that. In other words, I realized at a very young age that maybe I wasn't educated. I didn't go to college. Later on, I went to Liberty and studied for 3 years, learned a little bit about the word, but it was like when I was almost 40 at that time. And it was just my pastor said, hey, you should learn more. Anyway, it might have been mid 30s. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I always knew I could work hard.
Hmm.
I knew I had the energy and the drive from my athletic background, I guess, and
Yeah, from a young age, you had
competitive
that
nature.
drive. Yeah.
Yeah, like in high school, played football, whatever. I wasn't the biggest or necessarily the strongest. I was fast. God gave me that gift. But
Mm,
learned at a very young age I could outwork people. And I watched
mm.
other people not work as hard as me that maybe were as more talented, and I beat them
Right.
because I could outwork
Right.
them. And so I
Right.
think I took that when I got in the business world and learning. I was working 3 jobs, I mean, my first job in the insurance world at 27 years old, the guy interviewed me and says, if you'll work 40 hours a week, you'll do this, this, and this. And I said, what do I do the other 40? And he looked at me like I was crazy. But then when he saw me work, he was like, whoa, I can't, all I'm going to do is slow him down because there were goals that had to be hit and I wanted to hit them as fast as I could. Why would I wait? Right. So that I
Right.
took that.
Spot on.
I did good there. And then we went to another company because ethics weren't the way I wanted them to be. I moved twice for that company. They didn't want to move me. I did that in 18 months. I moved my family twice. And then when I needed them, they didn't want to do it. So anyway, we were moving on to another company. I went there, same thing. Here's the records. Go after it. If there's a record to be broken, let's break it. That's how I always look. So I knew that I had to take it. So when I'm leading a team, um, when I started here, we're at my agency now about 4 years ago, we went from basically ground zero to over $1 million agency literally in 8 months. Nobody ever done that in the IMO space. And they're like, what did you do? Well, I just worked really hard and did what they said. I wrote Hall of Fame, but I led from the front. I was never going to tell you or advise you to do something I wasn't willing to do. To this day, that's how I'm built. Like if this new lead comes out or this new technology comes out and you ask me a question, I don't know, but let me figure it out and then I'll get back to you. I'm not going to tell you this works if I've never done it. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to, that'd be lying in a way, right? Like you can't do that.
Sure.
So I'm going to jump in with the guys if there's something new, learn it and then teach it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to ask you to do something I'm not willing to do. And so that when they were talking about, it's like, I was so fired up from convention. It was like, man, you just moved me back 4 years to where I remember what it was like leaving there with nothing
Mm,
and going to move forward. In order to do that, I was going to take that intensity. I'm good, but you're not. So I promise you, I'm going to lead from the front. I'm going to die for you and do what I got to do, even though I don't have to, because I want you to win. Are you with me or not? If you're not, get off the boat. That's what that was about. And I can get fired up like that, and you see me in those times. So, but the truth is, I just want people to win so bad in life, and I look at our country and things going on there, and I just want to help people, help them understand the truth the best I can, and so every day when I wake up, it's just doing that.
couldn't agree with you more. I behave the same way. I guess the question that comes up for me as I sort of see you mirror back to me this is that, going back to what you said earlier, which is, just because we want it for somebody doesn't mean that they want it for themselves. How do you deal with that in terms of, like, because we want to send a message, we hope that it gets through, but we want also people to be receptive. Do you feel that when we are too intense, that we somehow disengage people in some way if they're not at that level of intensity?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can. And I can be calm too. I think it depends on the environment and what we're trying to accomplish, who I'm
Right.
speaking to, things like
Right.
that. I've learned recently to slow down just like now to make sure I get my point across because people say you talk too
Yeah.
fast. And I can.
Yeah. You can see that. Yeah.
Um, but I'm getting better at that as long as I focus on it. And just like anything else, if we focus on something, we usually get better at it. So I would just say for a person like that to pause and listen and where are the messages coming from? It's coming from the heart. So if you feel that, just
Mm,
like in sales for me, what's helped me is just sharing from my heart and being transparent. So when I'm in those energy moments, it's stuff coming out of podcasts I've listened to, books I've read, experiences I've been through. And so sometimes those can heighten those emotions, I think. And so I think if people just slow down and understand where the emotions are coming from, and see some people are more analytical than others. And so we have to
right.
slow down and explain that. I've always said I'm not that guy, but if I really dig into certain things that I've done in my life, I can give you that analytical side as well.
Tell me about your lifestyle routines or things that help you keep that intensity. Do you ever feel like you personally, burn out? And what is seeming to work for you to maintain that? I mean, I know probably like me, like a lot of it comes from where you are, like who you are, like from within, but we can also burn ourselves out and drive ourselves into our own walls. How have you found the ability to stay consistent in that?
Well, that's a great point. I think for me, it's always having routines and having that structure. When I wake up in the morning, the gym routine from laying my clothes out the night before, a lot of triggers. It's just like, hopefully everybody gets up and brush their teeth, I like to say, but that's part of the routine, right? Drinking, you know, 30
Yeah.
ounces or so plus of water as soon as I wake up. I do that every day. It's already ready. The clothes are laid out, all those triggers. So I already know the next day what time I'm getting up, what it looks like, when I'm going to the gym, when I leave the house. Pretty much now, my wife, I'm doing 75 hard right now, which she said you did. I've done it five.
Nice.
I've done it 5 times. So this is day 66. I did it because a friend wanted to do it. I'm like, okay, I'll go with you.
Good
And
for
so
you,
day
bro.
66, which I needed because I came through some surgery. But anyway, I think so for me, people say, well, you're one of the most disciplined people. Well, yeah, but that came through time. Like it was putting structures in place, calendars in place. I like to say guardrails because that's how I'm built. If I'm just going, I mean, it's going to go. Things are going to happen, but they not happen in the order it needs to. And so I have to put those parameters in place. I like to call them guardrails to keep me on the road. Because if not, I'm going off the road. And so that starts with that in the morning, from any vitamins I want to take to my drink to having my clothes laid out the night before, and having that plan laid out. So 75 hard just kind of dials that back in for me a little bit. And I think that's why it can be, it's not easy. It's obviously inconvenient, as you know, walking in the rain last
It's
night,
very inconvenient.
40 degrees, and it sucked. But I also
Right.
heard a podcast the other day. Andrew Newman was Uberman. I think I'm saying that name right. He was interviewing David Goggins, and they were talking about this
Yeah.
part of the brain. I don't know if you've read that one or heard it. You should. It's pretty
Mhm.
awesome. And he talks about when we do hard stuff, how that part grows. Anyway, so I challenge myself. But going back
Yes.
to routines, I think it's just, you know, I don't know that just because you get up early, you're going to be successful. I heard Andy say that. That's true. But I do believe some people need that discipline in their life to propel themselves forward. Right. I don't think that's the answer to the success, but it certainly doesn't hurt. And if I got to
Mhm.
go to 11 or 12 o'clock at night, I'll do that, and I'll still get up at 4:35, whatever. I'm used to get up about 5 now. Um, and there's that discipline. And I don't know about
Mhm.
you, but when you do things that other people aren't willing to do, you also have things that they won't have in the future too. And I think that's where it starts, is having those right routines in place.
Yeah, spot on. I love it. I mean, for me, I've learned this through this process of having the podcast and getting into this ecosystem, like how important these rhythms and routines are, and doing the things you don't want to do when you don't want to do it is like where all that resiliency comes from. And that's where 99% of people just give up. And 75 hard, man, good for you. 6 times. I think I've done it twice. It is incredibly inconvenient, and I don't care how many times you do it, I'm sure you're learning, it's like, it doesn't get any easier. which
Yeah,
is
we went
what
the whole
that
year.
whole thing is about.
So that's 4 phases, as you know, live hard and then
Yeah.
75 hard again. So yeah, I got to decide if
Yeah.
I'm continuing through the year. But I don't typically drink a lot, but I'll have a drink with you, a celebration or something. My wife's birthday just passed. People are looking at me like, yeah, dude, and this is part of it. She goes, that's during my birthday. What do you want me to do? I don't
Yeah.
need to do that.
Yeah.
I don't need to have the cake.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you can say no to the easy stuff, it's the hard stuff just becomes easier too, right? Um, so cool. Let's talk about, if you don't mind, let's talk about fatherhood. Let's talk about parenthood. You
yeah,
got, we're both girl dads. I
yeah,
think I'm a little bit behind you there. You got 4 daughters.
right.
All now it sounds like they're married and grown up, and you got a bunch of grandbabies running around. So fun. What are some of the lessons you've learned in being a successful, happy parent?
So we're a blended family. My wife and I were prior 18 and 20 years. So when we met, I mean, again, God has a sense of humor, right? Puts us 50 feet apart going through these things. And there we are. And 2 girls, they're 20 and 16, both pairs at the time. You're like, seriously? And
Seriously?
how we met and her friends meet, we met through a friend and outside one day. Of course, I'd seen my wife. She's younger than I am, about 5 years. I'm like, oh, scary, like beautiful and all those things. But at the time, I wasn't ready for that. But at the same time, God was. And so she was just out of a relationship. Obviously, we're going through a bunch of stuff together. And me being that person, it's like I think it was overwhelming for her family at first. And we were talking about this the other night. Thank God we prayed through that and it worked out. But and I told her matter of fact, last time on the couch, I said, thank you for believing in me. This literally happened because when
Wow.
your dad, your mom, your stepdad, your friends are like, whoa, 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 slow down. Like, what's going on here? That can be easy for her to think differently, but she saw what was truly who I am as a human being doesn't change. It's never changed. I'm still the same person, typically high energy, loving, caring, those type of things. I was a single dad for 5 years. My kids are everything to me. How a person can't, I mean, if they have kids, that should be, I mean, that's their kids. They need you. You're the adult. You always are the adult. Now mine are adults now, but dude, they still need you. And they still need
Yeah.
that love and know that support's there and stuff like that. So it's been the greatest adventure of my life being a dad, especially to girls, and then and now being a stepdad. Like, I know how they feel about me. Do they say it all the time? No. One of mine took 8 years, and her wedding day, I got to call her right before, and she said, I said, love you. And she said, I love you back. It took 8 years for that, right? So it took time. My wife read a book. I
Wow.
think it's 7 years for a blended family or something. So I always knew it was going to take some time and go through stuff. But watching our
Yeah. Wow.
family grow, we just had her event. She turned 50, my wife, beautiful. And man, I'm getting chill bumps thinking about having my girls standing up there. And dude, it was a life changing event. Like those were there. No, there was 50, 60 people there, but high quality, good people. Not that, you know what I mean? It's just successful people that we built in our life through our careers, and just them watching that, not knowing all the things we've been through, but listening to the girls being transparent with her as my daughters were as a stepmom and their girls. Dude, it was super powerful to see what they've seen and their growth through this whole
Yeah.
thing. And so, dude, it's the most important thing. I mean, I got kids who you just see they're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Why I do what I
Yeah, if
do.
you're listening,
How much
he's got, like,
if I
pictures all over.
you mentioned tired, dude, I'm not gonna get tired when I gotta take care of that. You know what I mean? I gotta. My wife is my strength because she in God, but she's the one that has to watch me. Like, okay, Dave, you need to rest for a minute. Like, she knows me better than anybody, so I have to listen to her. Sometimes I don't listen to my body very well, and then I'll get, like you said, we don't like to call ourselves burnout, but the truth is, at some point you can fall over if you don't watch it. So the way you guys like us go. So I've gotten a little bit better at that and kind of watching. I went and got an IV yesterday, so I could feel something coming on. I'm like, dude, I got to keep moving. I ain't got time for this. You know what I mean? So anyway, hope I got off track there a little bit with the
No, you're
kids,
spot on.
but man, it's the most challenging, but also the most rewarding thing you'll ever do in my mind.
I mean, I got younger ones, and they're not necessarily toddlers anymore, but parenting is
How
definitely
old are
the
they?
hardest job I've ever had, for
Exactly. How old are
sure.
they?
4 and 6.
And both girls, huh? Yeah. Well, it's going to get
Both girls. and they're getting smarter and they're getting savvier. And as young parents, one of the things I will share, that maybe I haven't shared this before, is like I've actually stopped social media when it comes to parenting. I think that was messing up me and my wife
Mhm.
because everyone acts like a pro when it comes to parenting on social media. Like, do this, do this, do this. And like parenting is a messy, hard, scary job. I have a lot of cousins who are like right behind me a few years, and everyone's got an opinion, right? Until they have their own,
Yes, they do.
or they're at the age where yours are at.
Yeah.
And everybody above me, meaning that has older kids than I do, is just like so compassionate, so understanding. Like, it's okay, dude. Just spend the time, just enjoy the time, enjoy the process. But if you're behind, it's really easy to just look at it critically and say, "Oh, well, you just don't know how to parent, or you're a bad parent," or they. It's so easy to judge. Is what I'm saying. But um,
I think if you
yeah, so it's we're in a fun season right now, but we were in a tough season a month ago. It's just like how it is as a parent. Parenting is definitely the hardest job I've ever had.
yeah, and I think, and you're probably doing this. I know you are. As long as they know you love them, dude, that I
Yeah,
mean, that means everything. No matter what parameters or whatever, however you parent. You know what I mean? Again, I think we talked about this. She parented different than I did, but our circumstances were. We talk about it all the time. Neither one was
right,
wrong. They
right.
both turned out great. So I think what you got to do is do the best you can because it's your first time through it, right? We can take all the advice in the world, but they don't live in our home. So we love them and we do the very best we can. And that's all you can do because the world is
Yeah.
the world. But that's where it starts, man, today. I mean, that's the issue. People can blame the schools, they can blame whatever. The truth is, if we do it right at home, that's going to help a lot when they're out in that world for sure. They,
Well, I will admit one thing. Anytime I feel like parenting is hard, it's often because or when I'm making it about me and not about them. So
amen.
like you said it spot on about like all they want is love from you. And I think as adults, that's all we want is like we want love from the people that parented us or cared for us. And anytime I'm unhappy or I'm feeling parenting is hard, it's because like I want it to go the way I want it to go instead of making it about them. So
And I
I
think that's
appreciate you
people
going
that we
down
both
that
do
path.
too, right? I mean, I know it's easy for us to think about ourselves and running our business and stuff, but the truth is, that's where sometimes almost to a fault, I got to watch that because I need to give tough love sometimes too. And I'm not the best at that, right? I mean,
Hmm.
just being honest, I can be a coach and in certain environments, yes. But when it comes to people that work here, um, I can love to a fault. But if they know I love and they care for them and they don't take advantage of it per se, I think that's the way we get more out of people. So
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think people can handle the push and the difficult conversations as long as they understand where that's coming from. Um, Spot on. What does Dave struggle with? What are you struggling with? What are you trying to overcome?
wow, I think every single day of every person's life, whether they say it or not, I think there's a past that they're overcoming, right? There's failures
Mm,
they've overcome. Now, the key is how much time do we spend there, right? Because we don't want to go back there. But I think we get stronger every single time something pops up, right? And we overcome it a little bit quicker. So I think the same thing everybody has out there. For me, um, man, I want to win so bad and I want to affect thousands upon thousands of lives in a positive way. And so it's never fast enough for me. So
yeah, me
if I
too.
struggle with anything, it's that it's the growth of growing fast. I can control my growth by how many books I read, podcasts, doing things like this, doing for other people, but I can't control sometimes the business to go faster or this person to take off faster or the podcast or a coaching program or whatever. I can't control certain parameters. So I struggle with that a little bit because if you and I want to go do something like run, we can just go take off and run, like, or we can listen to this and better that area. But it's the just wanting to win so bad and see other people win so bad that um, I can get frustrated with that part, knowing that there's talent there, knowing their heart, knowing who they are as people, but they for whatever reason just can't quite get to that next step. So the challenge for me is just like we said before, I can't change them; they have to be willing to change, and also being smart with my time. That's a challenge because as important as my time is, sometimes I don't spend the time with the 20 percenters, which is what I need to do more. The 80% can pull you away. So it's figuring out that piece and not letting people who are continually waste your time and don't listen to you to continue to give to them because of that giving heart, right? So those are some challenges that I have that I work on to get better at every day. But there's always something. We always got to be getting better. We're going backwards, right? So
Yeah, spot on. And some of guys like us are like chronic in that, like chronically looking for problems to go work on or to how to improve, whether it's ourselves or others, which can sometimes be dangerous. I find myself sometimes like getting lost in that. Like,
well,
man, am I creating a problem for myself?
you brought up something while ago. Social media. As human beings, it's easy for us to look at other people and compare, and we can't do that because
Right.
we've been at it longer. We don't know their circumstances, good or bad, right? So I think a lot of people do it. And you go back to the parenting thing, same thing. But I would challenge people not to do that, to be themselves, be them genuine selves, and not compare. You know what I mean? Like you're great. I love your energy, your podcast, your everything about you. But it'd be easier if you're looking, well, mine's not that big yet, or that, dude, you're gonna get there. You're
Mm.
gonna get there. There's no doubt in my mind. So, but if we look at where our likes are, where that we can't do that. So anyway.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. You're spot on. Let's go back to team because you were scratching on that for a minute. I think I have a similar challenge where well, I don't know if this challenge is yours, but I end up looking and spending most of my time on the bottom 50% because that's just where we feel like there's the weaknesses. And then naturally, what you assume is like, well, you're not spending time with your top 50% who needs all your energy because they're doing so great. Right now, for sure, this is showing up for me in that we want to try to build armies. We want to try to get everyone running down the field, charging hard, fearless. We're only as good as our weakest links. Do you hire slowly, fire fast? Do you train on the bottom 50%? Do you just let those ones fall off? How do you inspire them where it's sticky and that they actually can get it? Is it not made for everybody, that level of intensity and that drive? Like, give me some context and
Well,
help us. How do we build SEAL teams? How do we build excellent operating SEAL teams?
yeah, well, that's something I think we're always trying to get better at. It's just like
Yeah.
when I go to the gym, I've got some warriors that go with me, and we wear the same shirts, and we walk the same and do those things, and so it's developing that can take some time because some guys will show up and then they won't. Kind of figuring that
Right.
out as far as that part goes. But in the business world,
Mm.
for us, over the last year and a half, we've really developed a lot of systems. In the virtual world, that's been huge, very important. And so for us, we're able to touch everybody because we have a training from 9 to 10 every single day on Discord, like a Zoom. And then we also have a 10 o'clock call that we do every single day. And they know it's there every single day. As a leader, I was on there this morning. I might get on there for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15, whatever my heart, to share with them. But I have great other leadership. So I have call Monday, I call it architects. Okay. So the architects are guys that I know are good at this business. I can trust. They're going to stand up for me. They get the culture. 5 or 6. It's never usually bigger than that. We just added another one who's in my office here who I can trust and has really great ideas. He's a successful person. And so I'll get with them on Monday for an hour and lean on them about this thing. What do we change here? What's going on here? What are our, fires? What do we need to fix? How do we need to adjust that? And all those systems came from that group. And so we do that on Monday. Then we do our 10 o'clock Zoom where I'd have a guest on, and then we do our team call. These are just structures we put in place, which helps me
Mm.
operate, helps them operate. Then on Friday, we actually have a call, a Wolfpack call. So the Wolfpack call is our next group of those guys, which are up and coming leaders, people that are showing progress. They may not be knocking the ball in the park, but they show up to every call. They're, again, doing the things we want leaders to do. Because I don't want to have a guy that doesn't show up on the call, help him build this team, then I got to drag all them with him. I want him to be the one that does that. So we have a Wolfpack call. So then on that call, one of us, the architects, so we're usually on that with them, and then we're implementing different strategies from recruiting. We're holding them accountable for their sales or recruiting and things we've asked them to do. And they have a sheet they fill out, stuff like that. So that gives us kind of the bookends of the week: leadership, higher level, lower level, like up and coming. And in between, these both ends are participating in the training as well for the newer agents that come on board in our world.
Mhm.
So I think it's that. I think it's putting those correct systems in
Yeah, a
place.
lot of rigor, lot of rigor.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot
So
of training, a lot of rigor.
I'm part of Arte, which is, Andy and Andy Frisella and Ed, and they
Oh,
go
yeah.
stuff too. So we pick up, ideas there too and try to implement. But I think systems are key. I think it definitely helps us a lot. Then
Mm.
it's having those one-on-ones with the leaders. I think also spending we I got away from fun for a while because for 2 years, man, it was just building this agency, building this agency. There was no time off, there was no vacation, none of that. I'm getting back to where last year was like, man, we're going to get hockey tickets. We're going to go together. We're going to do this together. And so starting to implement that even in the office here. Hey, one time a month, we're going to either go to the pool together or we're going to do this together. I think you also got to have that downtime and fun too. We have a great time in the office, but I'm talking about where the
Yeah,
family,
yeah, yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to integrate. You have to create all that integration, right? Um, so fun, man. What are you afraid of?
Hmm. In life or just in general? I guess one interesting thing about me is I'm claustrophobic. I was locked in a trunk of a car when I was 9 years old, and
Oh,
that's a
wow.
challenge for me. Um, Speaking of SEALs, I wanted to be a SEAL. Wanted to be a Marine coming out of school. Wanted to play college football. Went a different route. Chased a girl. So fear. I don't know. I don't know if that's a tough one.
I mean, you don't seem like you're driven by fear or running away from fear.
No,
Just
I'm
always,
not. I'm not. There's a few things, but that's one of them.
yeah.
I don't. I think I have strong faith, but I mean, to be honest with you, I don't. There's that fear too. I mean, just being transparent with you, like what happens,
Yeah.
knowing what I know it's going to be and believe it will be. There's still that fear. I don't. I think people are lying if they say different.
You mean after?
Yeah, I mean, I trust God. I know
Yeah.
where I'm going. It's just, but there's still that fear when you're starting to see. I lost my dad about 18 months ago, and that was kind of scary. My mom's 80. Her mom's got onset of some stuff. I don't like work, speaking that out there, but you know what I mean, where she's dealing with some things, and so seeing that can bring that up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think I just don't want to run out of time. But I know it's in God's plan. So whatever that amount of time is, I think we don't. I don't want to waste it. So I think that would be my fear is to waste valuable time with my grandkids, my kids, helping people. I don't want to waste time. I want to leave a legacy. And one day when I go, that Dave did all he could. He cared for people, he loved people, he affected a lot of lives, and so that I think that's and that may not be a fear, but it is a fear
No,
that we're running out of time.
I have the same exact fear. I think that's what's motivating us to just be relentless. I don't know if it's like, oh yeah, we just like to work a lot. I think it's like we feel like we're running out of time all the time,
Yeah.
and there's like this fundament. Maybe it's an insecurity where we're just driving because we're like, oh my god, I don't have enough time. I gotta go. I gotta go. I'd rather use that to fuel me than what other people what other fears could decapitate me. But I would agree with you completely that time for sure is something I'm afraid of like
We'll get it
losing
back.
time and you can't get it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Life is so precious. I think that's what you were talking about earlier too, is the fragility of life is something I'm also learning as I get older. Now that you have kids, now that you have something, I don't want to say you have something to lose, but like things just become more in perspective and more, more beautiful as you get older. And
Sure.
um, so you have this like not fear of losing things, but just like the understanding that life is sort of this like perfect glass, fragile, whatever piece of art that at any moment anything could chip, and learning how to be okay with that and accept that is yeah. I've not lost a parent, but I can't imagine what that feels like, and so yeah, that's the fragility we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Amen. For
Yeah,
sure.
man. Yeah. Um, as we wrap up, I want to ask you, well, before we do that, what is a great way for people to connect with you? You have a website, and we'll put all the social media handles and things like that into the show notes. But um, tell us what's the best way to reach out to you if somebody wants to connect with you, learn more about the agency, get into your ecosystem, join a coaching program. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, DaveWhitchard.com. You just go to, we got that. So davewhitchard.com. You can access the coaching, learn a little about me on there. I put a couple things back here, but Win Zone Coaching is something we just launched. It's not on the public platform yet. We're working on that, but we have a private group of some of the guys and gals that work with us or have that are in that group that know about us. And so we started that a couple weeks ago. It's going really, really well. So we have that, winzonecoaching.com. And of course, at Dave Whichard on all the channels, whether it be Facebook and Instagram. I'm on there, both those a lot. And so just my name, you can Google it and find it, and so Whichard, that's the easiest way to find it. But yeah, we're always growing. We're always looking for people. We're in the insurance world. So I believe we have the best opportunity in that world. And, I can say that 26 years of experience, from the comp levels, how we pay, all those different things. But then even velocity, the culture, as you notice, there's nothing about insurance on here. It's heart, faith, hustle. That's what it's about, heart to serve. Your faith is what mine's God. And then obviously faith in yourself, and then hustle to work hard, so that's kind of our motto. It's on the back of the shirts, it's on our stuff.
Love it.
Guys wear it. So it's just building that culture. Like you said, an army of men and women that care for other people, willing to work hard and have that heart, that kind of thing. So
Kick-ass. Dave, for you, my friend, what does it mean to live a rich life?
Well, I think for me, man, being surrounded by people that love you is huge. When I see our family together, it's there's nothing better than that. Having grandkids run around and kids, and we used to talk about it, and it literally, the power of the spoken word is huge, because my wife said, can you imagine we're going to have maybe 6 of these one day? I'm like, yeah, we'll have like 6 of them. Now we have 5 and 1 on the way, and the 6-year-old will be, the first one's going to be the ringleader, and she sure is. It all comes to fruition. Crazy how that works, right? So I think being successful and what success means to other people is not about the money for me. It's about what I can give, because without money, I can't really do a whole lot for a lot of people. So I think it's just doing what God's asked me to do and what I feel God wants me to do, and giving me that platform and continue to do those things every day and showing up as hard as I can. So to me, the richness of life is that it's being fulfilled completely, and with my wife, my kids, my family, my God, and great people around me, but also the fulfillment of knowing that I made a difference in people's lives. If it's one person, if it's thousands, when I speak, I always say that it's one person in this room that likes that's all that matters to me. If I do a podcast, it's one person. It's always somebody. I don't know who needs to hear it, but that's how I speak and that's how I talk. And it can be multitudes, and it has been. But I just go up to talk about one. I want to hit one person, give them one person in that room and change their life that day. So that's how I live my life.
Dude, honored that you're here, man. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you going to some deep places and being open and vulnerable. I've learned so much from this conversation, and I'm definitely going to listen to it again, but I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're doing, and should follow you, man, because you got some good stuff, and I appreciate you having me on, and we're always here to help anybody we can. So what I would say, one last thing is, if you spent the day with me, if you sat in my home, if you spent this is who you get. There's no,
I can tell.
This is me, and the people that know me and know me the longest and work with, oh yeah, that's still the same dude. So I think we got to be ourselves and love on people and make this world a better place. So thank you for having me on that. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, I definitely encourage the listeners to follow Dave, and because I think it's sincere and true, because I've done this a lot and I've interviewed many people, and my goal is to always get to the heart of the person and who that really person is and pull the most out of them. So I appreciate you showing up today and doing exactly that, man. Love you, bro. Thanks.
Love you too, bro. Appreciate you.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the Rich Equation podcast. Listen, if you're really enjoying this and you're engaging with our community, we have an epic mastermind called the Epic Tribe. We meet every single week, and we're bringing together leaders that really are trying to grow their businesses, expand their lives, and live epic lives together. If you want to change the world, well, we have to start with ourselves. We want to ignite leadership in all facets of our life, building communities of seekers who are asking questions, breaking patterns, and have a deep conviction of self. A space that elicits accountability, gratitude, freedom, and a lifelong pursuit of learning. Ultimately, this is all about you. It's about transforming our families and hopefully future generations. So we're really trying to instill these fundamental levels of awareness, habits and skill sets, not only in our personal life, but in our businesses. We're really growing this community and trying to have people that are expansive and really want to take their life to the next level. So if that sounds like you, then you'd be a perfect fit. DM me on my Instagram, or you can send me an email personally at me@ashishnathu.com. Thank you guys so much for listening, but please engage. Leave us a 5-star review of the podcast. Make sure you download the episodes, and talk to you soon. We'll see you on the other side.